It started as a routine drive until a Karen cop car appeared in the rearview mirror. What could go wrong? Turns out, everything. In a matter of minutes, my car was towed away because it looked stolen. What followed was a nightmare of paperwork, frustration, and a damaged car. Here's the harrowing story of how a power-drunk cop made my life a living hell. I was driving down the road, minding my own business, when I saw a Karen cop car coming up behind me. At first, I didn't think much of it, but as she got closer, I could see her glaring at me through the rearview mirror. My palms started to sweat as I realized she was going to pull me over. What could I have done wrong? I hadn't been speeding. I hadn't run any red lights. I was a law-abiding citizen going about my day, but none of that seemed to matter to her. As soon as I pulled over, she strutted up to my car, her eyes scanning the interior like a hawk. "Excuse me, ma'am," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "Do you know why I pulled you over?" I had no idea. "No, officer, I don't," I said, trying to keep my cool. "It's because your car looks stolen," she said matter-of-factly, as if this was a perfectly reasonable excuse to stop someone. "I'm going to have to ask you to step out of the car, please." I was dumbfounded. My car looked stolen? What the hell did that even mean? I got out of the car, my hands shaking a little, and started to explain that it was my car, that I had all the proper documentation, that there was no reason for her to think it was stolen. But she wasn't having it. She just kept looking at me like I was some kind of criminal, and then she called for a tow truck. "I'm sorry, ma'am," she said, not sounding sorry at all, "but I can't take any chances with a car that looks stolen." I watched in disbelief as my car was towed away, feeling helpless and angry. The feeling of powerlessness that came over me was overwhelming. "Wait, officer, you can't do this! This is my car! I have all the proper documentation!" I protested, trying to reason with her. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I can't take any chances with a car that looks stolen," she replied coldly, ignoring my pleas. "But it's not stolen, can't you see that?" I exclaimed, frustration and panic rising in my chest. "I'm afraid I have to take your car in, ma'am," she said, her tone final. "You'll have to sort it out with the impound lot." With that, she got back in her car and drove away, leaving me stranded on the side of the road with no way to get to my appointments. As I stood there, watching my car being driven away, I couldn't help but think about all the things I needed to do that day. I had appointments to attend, meetings to go to, and errands to run. But now, all of that was in jeopardy. My car was gone, and with it, my freedom to move around the city. Getting my car back was a major ordeal that took up a significant portion of my day. After waiting for hours, I was finally able to speak with someone who could help me. However, the process was far from smooth sailing. When I arrived at the garage, I was greeted by an employee who seemed irritated that I was there. "What do you want?" he snapped at me as I approached the counter. "I'm here to pick up my car," I said, trying to remain calm despite his rude demeanor. He rolled his eyes and sighed. "Do you have the paperwork?" he asked, gesturing towards a stack of forms on the counter. I handed him the documents I had collected earlier that day, including my driver's license, registration, and insurance papers. The employee scrutinized every detail, taking his time to pore over each document. After what felt like an eternity, he finally looked up at me. "Everything seems to be in order," he grunted, as if he was doing me a favor. "Your car is in the back lot. Follow me." I followed him out to the lot, my heart racing with anticipation. When we finally arrived at my car, I breathed a sigh of relief. However, my relief was short-lived. The employee started to inspect my car, looking for any signs of damage. "There's a scratch here," he pointed out, rubbing his finger over a small mark on the hood. "And here," he added, pointing to another scratch on the door. I was taken aback. "Those weren't there when I dropped off the car," I protested. The employee just shrugged. "It's not my problem," he said dismissively. "You'll have to take it up with the tow truck driver." I was furious. Not only had my car been towed for no reason, but now it had been damaged as well. I demanded to speak with the tow truck driver, but was told that he had already left for the day. Feeling defeated, I reluctantly got into my car and drove away. The entire experience had been a nightmare, and I couldn't believe how difficult it had been to get my car back. The process was frustrating and exhausting. I had to fill out paperwork, provide identification, and explain the situation over and over again. It was a nightmare, and all because some entitled Karen cop decided that my car looked stolen. The experience made me reflect on the power dynamics at play in our society. It's easy for someone in a position of power to completely disrupt your life without any real justification or consequence. It's a scary thought, knowing that you can be targeted and harassed by the very people who are supposed to protect you. It's outrageous that a police officer would tow someone's car simply because it looks stolen. This is a clear abuse of power and a violation of basic civil liberties. The fact that the OP had to go through such a difficult process just to get their car back is unacceptable. This experience highlights the need for greater police accountability and reform. My ex-husband, who cheated on me with my sister, emailed me after 6 years. I, 33F, met my ex-husband Dan, 40F, almost 15 years ago at a restaurant when I was celebrating my 18th birthday. He was really nice, charming, and mature. He made me feel loved and special. For some context, I grew up in a dysfunctional family. My mom and dad used to always fight. My dad would sometimes go out and not come back for months. He died when my sister Abby, 25F, was born. My mom was way too fond of Abby since her birth rather than me. Abby was basically babied by my mother. She didn't neglect me at all, always did her best as a mother and provided for me, but I always felt something missing. After Dan came into my life, I didn't feel like there was something missing from me. He supported me, he was caring, he would always buy me gifts and take me out on long drives. I felt complete when I was with him. We got married after dating for 4 years. I wanted to start a family right away, but Dan encouraged me to do my master's and helped me build my career. He wanted us to be in a stable financial position before we started thinking about having kids. Seriously, he was the best guy I could ever ask for. After 5 years of being happily married, I discovered that my husband was cheating on me with Abby. I discovered the affair when my husband made an excuse that he would go out of town for a week, but he stayed in town and booked a hotel room where he and Abby could have sex. This had been going on for 6 months behind my back. I was devastated. Abby and I were close growing up. I loved her and cared for her. How could she do this to me? After the D-Day, Dan and I had a fight. I asked how could he do this to me? That too with my sister who just turned 19? He said he didn't love me anymore, that I didn't give him enough attention, that I was not the same girl he fell in love with. Between this mess, I discovered that I was pregnant, but due to the stress, I lost the baby. He didn't even care enough to visit me at the hospital when I lost our child. He was having a weekend getaway with my sister. I should have seen the signs. Abby would always be touchy with Dan. Dan would sometimes stare at her, but it is still very disturbing for me. My mother, as usual, took Abby's side and told me to just make peace with it. I wanted to kill myself because I had no one left. I lost my child and my husband, my whole family. Then my best friend Tina, my savior, came to my rescue. She was moving to another state and asked me to come with her. I said yes. I was already divorced at that point and we lived in a small town, so I would obviously run into my ex and my sister. It took me a while to settle into my new life in a different state, but I met some kind people there. It helped me heal some trauma. I still have trust issues. I met my now husband Tony, 32M, after 1 year of moving to the new place. I was really hesitant and kept my guard up, but he showed me that he is trustworthy and loves me a lot. I was so happy with him that I almost forgot about the life I had back in my hometown. His parents were really welcoming and generous people. We got married a year ago. I am now pregnant with our first child. Yesterday, I got an email from my ex, Dan. It just brought back all the bad memories. I am just paraphrasing his email. He mentioned that he misses me. He tried to find me but couldn't. He is very miserable with my sister. She is very dumb and doesn't care about him like I do. I used to bake him a cake and throw birthdays for him, but Abby only texted him happy birthday and didn't even bother to buy him a cake. Plus, she is very rude. She doesn't respect him. She is always at the bar with her friends. He also mentioned that she has cheated on him 5 times already. The last affair was with his cousin. Our mother also doesn't stop her. He will soon file for a divorce, but lately he has been missing me a lot. He wants us to try again as a couple. He wants us to become a family just like before. Since I do not have social media except for Instagram, which is private, he probably doesn't know that I am married and I have a baby on the way. I don't know if I should feel pity for him or just laugh because the grass on his side is very brown rather than green. The OP finished her post and left an update later. This is what they said. I just wanted to say thanks to all of you who messaged and showed me support. I have decided to send him an email and be done with it. The OP also showed the email itself, and it reads the following. Dan, I am sorry to hear that you are suffering, but there is no way I would be with you. Yes, there was a time when I used to be that girl who would have taken you in a heartbeat, but that girl is not there anymore. That girl has died the day I had a miscarriage and you were somewhere shacking up with my sister. I called you, but you never picked it up. I am married to a wonderful man who loves me and cherishes me. I am also pregnant with our first child. I am beginning this new chapter of my life with someone I love and care deeply. So please, do not contact me ever again. You made your choice. You chose my barely legal sister over me. I do not care if she cheats on you or she doesn't respect you. Someone like you doesn't deserve loyalty and respect anyways. I have left my old life in my old town. It will be best for you to move on and have some self-reflect on yourself. You are just a deeply insecure man who is getting old and thought having a young woman would be good by your side. Goodbye. The OP gave an additional update when people asked for the reply to the email. A lot of you have been asking me what he replied. Well, he replied within an hour of me emailing him. He said that he was stupid enough to believe that I would still wait for him, and he said he would always wait for me because no matter what, I will always be his baby doll. I cringed hard. He used to call me that, but now it feels repulsive. I also got an email from my mom and my sister. My mom just congratulated me and was excited that she's going to be a grandmother. And my sister also did the same and said she will be the cool aunt. I cannot believe these people. They forgot how they treated me when I needed them and moreover, betrayed me. I cried for a long time because I've been reading your comments. And it seems like me and my sister were groomed by that man. I feel so stupid. I know I shouldn't be mad at my sister, but she was old enough to know it's bad to have an affair with a married man. That too someone who is your sister's husband. I blocked all of them. I am 5 months pregnant already. I don't need more stress. God bless my husband. He comforted me when I cried. Later took me out for ice cream. I hope I can move past this. So this update wasn't as elaborate, but the OP later posted this revised one with a much more satisfying ending. I am cooled down now. I think I can make a more elaborate update. Thanks to everyone who has shown me support. I needed it. The email from him, my ex, just struck me like a train. I had flashbacks of everything he has done to me. I think you guys deserve a detailed update. After I sent him the reply mail, he emailed me within an hour with the thing I said in my update, 2-part. A few hours later, I get 2 other emails from my mom and sister. They sent me in my old email address that I hardly use now. I don't know how they knew about my pregnancy. I try to keep a low profile. I still haven't posted my baby bump pics on social media or made any announcements. I only have Instagram to follow my friends, but it just scared me. I broke down crying on the spot. Luckily, my husband Tony was around. He held me and put me on the couch. He knows everything about me. I never hid anything from him. I was a little bit scared that my mom and sister would find me. He reassured me that I'm hundreds of miles away from them. I mean, we are on the opposite part of our country. He took me out for ice cream to comfort me. It took 2 ice cream cones to finally calm me down, LOL. I told him about my concerns and that my mom and sister might demand to see my baby. It's a girl. He told he would talk to his uncle, who is a police officer, to be on a lookout for them. Even if they come here and force themselves on you, he would fight for it. He is going to consult his lawyer friend about this matter, and told me not to worry about my ex. He cannot harm me anymore. My husband even made a joke that he would move countries if he has to. Lastly, someone in my post commented that I should alert the daycare about my mom and sister in case they try to steal my baby. Well, we aren't planning to put her in daycare. Even though I am currently working, I decided I would quit my job and look after my baby and focus on healing from giving birth. I do have a good amount of savings in my personal bank, and this is my own decision. I will go back to work when our little princess is a little bit older. My in-laws are amazing. My Emil and Fiel live nearby. They are both good people and offered to help with my child. Also, don't worry, apart from my in-laws, I have a good support system too. Tina and her wife Jenny basically adopted me, LOL. They are really good people and always helped me. I don't know what will happen in the future, but at least I am surrounded by some good people that I never had growing up. Now, I will take your leave and enjoy my husband pampering me. If something big happens, I will keep you guys updated. And my ex, sister, and mother are all blocked. For those of you who are interested, when Dan got married to OP, Abby was 14 years old. When Dan and the OP started dating, she was only 10 years old. Also, if you pursue girls who are barely legal and 15 years younger than you, you lose the right to call them things like baby doll without coming across as extremely creepy. I-24F dating a 25M almost unreasonably picky eater, and I'm pretty much at the end of my rope. I-24F met Jake, 25M, about 2 years ago while we were out and bonding over the fact that we had graduated from the same college. We went on a couple of dates and were getting to know each other when he let me know that he had more or less eaten pizza every day for the past 3 years. I didn't love the idea, but I thought he was pretty cool besides that and figured it was just a little quirk he had, that he was exaggerating and that the dude just really liked pizza. He was not. He eats it every single day without fail. Each time we go out, it has to be pizza, and after a few fights here and there, it's been pretty much an unspoken understanding that when we go out, we will be getting pizza. Also, it's not just any pizza, he's even picky about his pizza. He'll make us go to a few totally inconvenient pizza places that require a subway ride trip and are far from where either of us lives. We live in NYC, and I'm sure most of you know you pretty much can't pass a single block without stumbling upon a pizza place. So it's not like these places are our only options. I can name all the foods he eats on both my hands. All are simple carbohydrates, but pizza is his absolute favorite. The others he'll just settle to eat if pizza is not immediately available. No vegetables, no fruit, no protein whatsoever. He absolutely refuses to even try them despite never trying most of them before. I've tried to gently push his boundaries, but it always fails. And the one time we went somewhere I wanted to go, he pouted the entire time and ordered French fries. He's promised to be more open, and that this pizza thing won't be forever, but that it's working for him now, whatever that means. He claims to be high-functioning on the spectrum, which honestly, I'm not totally convinced of, but that's another story, and that's why he can only eat pizza. This made me more cautious of discussing my issues with his diet, because I know how easily he can claim I'm insensitive to his disability, and that it's something he truly cannot help, and he has. I do firmly believe he has some sort of avoidant eating disorder, which is clearly not debatable. I've more or less dropped it because it always starts a fight, but the resentment is still there. Something I wasn't totally sold on when we first met but convinced myself was a small quirk is turning into genuine disgust and bitterness towards him, and his unwillingness. I guess he thought I got over it since I stopped bringing it up as much, and he informed me of his plan to stop eating pizza every day after 10,000 consecutive days of eating pizza. To do the math for you, that's roughly around 2040, factoring in the days he's already gained. He's going to document it on his Instagram story and show everybody his streak. He seems so proud of this idea and commitment, and I'm genuinely stunned. He thinks this is just some interesting cute little tidbit about him that people will support because he's such an offbeat guy. I could not believe what I was hearing. Taking away the inconvenience of always having to eat where he wants to eat, not being able to cook for us, me being bored stupid over eating the same shit every time, it's simply not healthy. He claims because he's outwardly fit it's not a big deal, but I disagree. I was sort of putting up with the whole pizza thing at first, but upon this announcement, I don't know if I can deal with this much longer. It's inconvenient, it's unhealthy, and in my opinion, it's selfish. Everybody you go to eat out with has to cater to a single person's self-imposed dietary restrictions. He's going to Germany with his family for vacation, and he's already mapped out the available pizza places he can eat at. German pizza over authentic German cuisine? It very well could be something he can't help, and he has claimed to be getting help through therapy with it, but I'm seeing no progress, and honestly, I don't think he wants to, and only says he's working on it to placate me. He talks about having a future with me and having kids, and there's no way I would even consider that if he continues to commit to this streak, for the fear of setting a bad example for our children's eating habits. We don't live together and only see each other about 3 times a week, and the pizza thing is driving me crazy. He proposed moving in together, and I immediately shot that down for the time being. If I can barely handle it now, I know living together would only amplify it. I've tried gently coaxing. I've tried showing him studies on how his diet affects his life and sets back the fitness goals he's always complaining about never reaching. I've tried fighting in anger only to be told I'm an asshole because I need to accept him as he is and that he can't help it. Maybe he is right. I have to accept it or I have to move on. And at this point, I truly don't think I can. He's great in almost every other way, except for this. I feel guilty for letting it go on this long when it bothered me from the very beginning, but I can't change that now. Do I concede and let him eat whatever he wants as he's a grown man? Should I draw this boundary and continue to push him to push himself and give an ultimatum? Or do I just need to throw in the towel at this point and move on with my life? I never expected to become so anxious about pizza, for goodness sake. It's frustrating. Update from July 2nd, 2019. This update is way more dramatic and unpleasant than I had hoped, but it is what it is. I read what you all wrote and I appreciate all the comments left for me. Despite a few outlandish ones, they were all very helpful and reaffirming of my beliefs that I'm not being nitpicky about this issue. I decided to give it one last shot at broaching this issue with him and letting him know how serious it was to me. He needed help, and so long as I saw that he was trying, that was all I asked for. We were out to dinner, I'm sure you can all guess what we had to eat, when he brought up his trip to Germany and how he would have to find a supermarket stat to stock up on frozen pizzas to keep his streak going. I was hoping to do it after the trip so as not to ruin his good time, but I figured now was as good a time as any. Me. Maybe you don't have to continue the streak. Maybe you can just try new German cuisine without worrying about having to get pizza into your diet the entire time. Have you talked with your therapist about your avoidant eating? Jay, no way. I have people depending on me to continue this streak. I don't want to let them down. Me, I don't think anybody really cares about this streak as much as you do. And frankly, I'm worried about you. This is really unhealthy, and it's consuming your life. You're about to go on this incredible trip to Germany, and the forefront of your mind is to get to a grocery store to pick up frozen pizzas. I think you really need to discuss this with your therapist again. We had a back and forth the rest of our meal about his diet, and how it was affecting our relationship. He doesn't think it's a problem because his health is fine. Keep in mind he's only 25, and how I was being a busybody and needed to mind my own business. I let him know how this is my business because it affects me. We can only go out to eat one thing. We can never have a meal at home together. And if we did decide to move forth and have children, the example he is setting is awful. We let the issue go for the rest of dinner, not wanting to escalate it, and ate in silence. The plan after was to go back to his place where I would spend the night. The entire trip home he was silent but very obviously simmering while I wished I had just gone home. I should have gone home. I guess I didn't expect the shitstorm that waited when I got to his place. He flipped. He began screaming how he was so sick of me bringing this up and how it was his life and how I couldn't control what he did or ate. I told him I cared about him and his health and wanted him to recognize what he was doing was not healthy. I ultimately agreed that he was right. I couldn't control what he did or what he ate, but he can't expect that I stick around and watch and enable him like I had been doing in the past. It escalated from there, how he had been there for me the entire time when I was an active alcoholic and through my relapses. I could not, and still cannot, dispute that. He was. I guess the only difference between him and me is that I wanted to change. I acknowledged the issue and knew I could not go on like this any longer. Obviously, though, it is much quicker to see the downfall of someone suffering from alcoholism versus someone who is suffering from this kind of eating disorder. One spirals much faster than the other, so I was able to recognize it much quicker. I told him I was going to leave because I couldn't deal with this anymore. We kept fighting and fighting, and he let me know he would expose me. He has a blog, and he told me how he would write one about what it was to live with an alcoholic and use my name. He would be sharing it on Facebook. I completely panicked. I cried and begged that he didn't use my most vulnerable moments against me. He told me if I walked out, he absolutely would. That was all I needed to hear. He was going to blackmail me. I think this snapped me awake to realize this isn't love. If I leave, he's going to humiliate me on the internet to get back at me. That absolutely isn't love. So I left. I don't have many possessions there, but he can keep them for all I care. He emailed me a draft of the post, blocked him on everything else, and the subject was last chance. Let him post it. Fuck it. I can't control other people. I can only control myself and how I react. I deactivated all my social media, and I'm ready to move on with my life. It hurts that somebody I trusted so much would explicitly broadcast my past, but it's a learning lesson. Thank you all for reading. Edit. I'm a total hothead and need to relax. Crazy defensive right now and wondering if I did the right thing. I apologize for lashing out. OP's short update on March 12, 2023. Update. He was all talk, no follow-through on the blackmail. Blocked his ass on everything that night without warning or explanation, never looked back. Almost 4 years now, no contact, couldn't be happier. Good riddance. Did I ever mention he threatened to kill himself every time I threatened breaking up too? Good times, good times. Comment 2 about the ex-boyfriend streak as of March 12, 2023. I'd have no idea. I ghosted him not long after this happened. My guess is probably, yeah. I don't think this was necessarily about wanting to commit to the streak just because he wanted to. I think it was an excuse he was using to justify his refusal to eat other foods with the distinct bonus of getting other people's attention, which he was a slave for. Worst relationship of my life. Should have never let it go on for as long as it did. Comment 3 on the X, March 12, 2023. Last I heard he moved to LA. He attempted contact twice. Once tried from a burner account on Snapchat, and the other was via Venmo LOL. Eventually got the message it wasn't happening. No, he never followed through on his threat, although I don't think that was out of a kindness to me. In hindsight, I don't think he ever planned on doing it. Just empty threats out of desperation to get me to stay with him. This dude had some serious issues, and I have no desire to ever see or hear from him again. Comment 4 on the XBF's pizza preferences, March 12, 2023. It wasn't so much the toppings that he wanted, but like the way a specific pizza is made. Like some pizzerias use different crusts, different sauces, and he peculiarly liked the crust and sauce at this one place. From what I remember, he liked cheese, pepperoni here and there, but mostly cheese. Boring. 10,000 consecutive days of pizza. That's pizza every day for over 27 years. Nearly 3 decades of pizza. It's hard to imagine. I hope she's doing better now, sober and working with her own therapist. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to subscribe and the bell, or you're definitely the jerk. Check the other videos on your screen now. I would really appreciate it. It's not a request, it's a demand. Check out another video. I'll be waiting.